following is a presentation of TFNN. Time to talk about your health. Living a primal lifestyle.
You know, we have Tom from Tampa on the phone. Hey, Tom. Good morning. It's bright and early now, huh?
Hey, Paige. Good. How you guys doing, Nico?
Doing great.
Good. Hey, your newsletter's outstanding, man. I'm telling you, man, it is outstanding. And so is the Primal. I love that stuff. I'd never be without it. I mean, I've been on it now 3-4 months, man. I mean, it's just, I can't get over how good I feel.
Primal Edge is, people are raving about it. People who are trying it, they know because you can feel it.
Would not be without it.
Call now, toll free at 1-877-927-6648. Internationally at 727-445-1044. Now your hosts, Nico DeHaan and Paige Clark.
Good morning. I'm Paige Clark. Welcome to Living a Primal Lifestyle, where we explore a return to a more balanced, natural, wild world.
And to recover our health and regain our rights and freedoms, I'm Nico DeHaan.
And it is a beautiful day in downtown Clearwater, 78 degrees. Hope you're having nice weather where you're at. Please subscribe to our Health Signals newsletter. You get it straight into your inbox, $10, 2 issues a month. You can stay up to date on all the cutting-edge stuff that Nico and I dive down into all week.
The next one coming up on Tuesday, so catch that, folks. Also, we have the last day of our promotion of the last chance to get the Primal Edge promotion, and this will get you, really help you subordinate your health, I would say.
Yeah, supplement it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So that's great. You can use Tiger Dollars if you're a member of the Tiger's Den. Yeah. Otherwise, you can reach me at paige@tfnn.com if you have questions or ideas for the show.
Yeah, you can reach me at nico@tfnn.com.
And we're taking your calls at 877-927-6648.
That's right.
So, Nico.
Yes.
I saw this article, and I just kind of wanted to go over it a little bit. It said that it was off of ABC, and it said, think a heart attack won't happen to you. Mm-hmm. This study says you might be wrong. And what Australian experts and studies that happen in Australia have found a big increase in patients who are otherwise healthy having heart attacks, but they had no obvious risk factors.
Yes. And,
it's more than doubled the amount of people coming in based on their studies. It went up, the heart attack rates went up from 11% to a surprising 27% of patients over 8 years.
Yeah, so these people are wondering, normally they're healthy, they're exercising probably, and appear healthy, satisfied with what they're eating, and all of a sudden this comes about.
It says it really triggered us to try and look at how this is happening based on the fact that these patients who don't have traditional risk factors, and that's what got me thinking, and I saw it was on ABC News, traditional risk factors. We still have a majority of the public that believes that the so-called traditional risk factors are still the only things that influence a heart attack.
Yeah, it says this heart attacks occur across all age groups and are just as dangerous and deadly as those people with the actual risk factors that are identified by your doctor.
So what do these doctors say is the reason that otherwise healthy people are having heart attacks?
Yeah, what are they saying?
It says they're not sure what causes patients with no risk to develop plaque in their arteries or atherosclerosis. Uh-huh. Now, you and I know that many people who are not, we know that traditional risk factors are hypertension, metabolic syndrome, diabetes, high cholesterol, etc. But let's go beyond the diabetes, because I've been posting a lot that we have an epidemic of diabetes, but we have an even bigger epidemic of people who don't think they're diabetic.
Right.
Because they've been improperly diagnosed, because we're still using, people go, oh, my doctors didn't say anything about my glucose numbers. You cannot diagnose diabetes based on a glucose number.
And, of course, we talked about that.
Fasting
Remember that movie that we saw, and I was on the Tom O'Brien show last night. We were talking about What the Health, the movie. And what do they say on that program? You get the gist that what's causing diabetes is fat and protein.
In fact,
it's mixed messages here.
The truth is so strange, isn't it? I mean, it is so strange to me that they actually believe they can flip it. It's kind of like that funny guy, that redhead guy, what's his name, that does all the funny...
Oh, the carrot
YouTube
guy?
He does all those funny things, but he just makes you realize how silly it is, the way they've done this switch. But really what it comes down to is atherosclerosis is multifactorial, and sugar and refined carbohydrates are really at a big crux of it. In addition, we've got pollutants, we've got heavy metals, viruses and bacteria. but they all can combine to make a perfect storm.
Well, I think another thing I think of automatically when I think about heart attacks and the arteries being clogged, I think of glycation. So the interaction of the sucrose or sugars in your body
With the viruses, bacteria,
and mixing with protein, and usually you're not mixing it with the great healthy protein. You're usually mixing it with
a Big Mac.
Yeah, processed meats.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are kind of the things that your body doesn't quite know what to do with because it's not extremely healthy. So it's around in your bloodstream. It's kind of wandering around, and right away you get some of that. Maybe you're eating some bread or some pasta, or maybe you're just eating a Snicker bar, and all of a sudden you've got the mixture of a protein that's unhealthy, and then something sticky comes along like a sugar to bind with it.
There's no doubt that thick. One of my mentors used to call it beef jerky blood. You know, it's just so thick and sludgy. This could be happening. So what are these guys doing down there? We're actually doing a big study at the moment, they say, thanks to the support of Heart Research Australia, where patients are consenting to give some blood, and we're trying to understand, particularly in this population who don't have the traditional risk factors, what might be driving the atherosclerosis and the heart attacks. And she said there was a misperception that coronary disease only happens in older men there who have smoked or lived unhealthy lives. And folks, that's really something, you know, with close to 1 in 2 people, 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women succumbing to heart disease. It's really something we need to look at overall, no matter what kind of lifestyle we're living.
Yeah, and the first indication I had of this was when I was in my running mode back in the 80s, doing quite a bit of, 30 miles a week or something like that as regular training. And one of my heroes, Jim Fixx, gets a heart attack at age, I think, in his mid-50s. And here we thought that this guy was a healthy guy, but it was his diet that really contributed to this. And then it kind of opened my eyes to say, wait a minute, there's something else going on here. This guy's exercising like crazy, one of the world premier athletes, and in his mid-50s has a heart attack. And of course, what they were saying at that time, he was predisposed because in his family he had that.
That's what they say, but
Yes.
I just don't. I think that story is going away now.
I think so
I just
too.
think predisposition is just such a. It's you're predisposed, but your lifestyle is going to be what pulls the trigger.
Right.
And remember a couple years ago we used to talk about Dr. Wallach. I mean, we still should talk about Dr. Wallach. Dr. Wallach's a great guy. I mean, he's a doctor and a veterinarian, and his work, Dead Doctors Don't Lie, and a lot of his other work is really talking about the power of nutrition to reverse diseases. And he talked a lot about athletes. Many of them are mineral deficient, and they have high free radicals.
And a lot of them eat a lot of carbs. They carb load.
They carb load, and then they have free radical stress.
Yeah.
So, it's a perfect storm.
Yeah.
So, even young, fit women and men are developing life-threatening plaque in their hearts and arteries. And it really is a goal of medicine today to figure out what's going on. And we're trying to say is we can help them out a little bit, Nico, if they watch our show.
I think so.
We can say, let's take a look at the food. And let's realize that the food goes beyond. It's really these processed carbs are what are really
Any kind
and
of
the
processed
damaged fats.
foods. Yeah, the damaged fats and the
processed
bad proteins that they talk about in that movie too. What the Health. They talk about primarily it's the meat and fat that's highly processed that's bad. But of course, any food that's processed is going to be a lot worse than something that's in its original form.
And the researcher said it's important to know the symptoms of a heart attack. Maybe take some time and Google that so you can help yourself or help someone you love or a coworker in the event that they're having symptoms and get to help right away.
Yeah,
We're going
pick
to
up
take
that
a
Primal
short
Edge,
break.
folks. $25 off your initial buy here, so pick that up right away. We'll be right back. You know what's cool? Taking something that's good for you. Something specifically formulated to help with weight loss, better sleep, stress reduction, and the need to detox.
Nico, our hunter and gatherer ancestors found all their nutritional requirements for health in their wild environment. But today, our food sources no longer contain the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients our bodies need to stay healthy and strong.
That's why we need Primal Edge Daily Nutrition. It includes a special blend of ionic, soil-based vitamins, minerals, fatty, and amino acids in an easy-to-use liquid form.
Primal Edge is powered by highly concentrated fulvic and humic acids, nature's preferred delivery system. They have been called miracle molecules because, like sunlight, air, and water, life cannot exist without them.
That's right, Paige. They ensure we receive all the nutrition we need to be healthy and thrive. We take it every morning.
Primal Edge, formulated and approved by Nico and Paige of Living a Primal Lifestyle. Buy it today for just $89. Click on the Primal Edge banner on the front page of TFNN.com. Platinum, grains, crude oil, gold, copper, cattle, hogs, gasoline, natural gas, coffee, cotton, cocoa, and sugar. These are just some of the commodities mentioned in the most recent issue of Andy Hecht's Techno-Mental Commodity Report. Andy publishes his weekly newsletter every Thursday morning, where he breaks down the commodity market and provides his subscribers with specific trading recommendations based on his trading methodology. By signing up for a free trial to the Techno-Mental Commodity Report, you'll get a full 30 days to try out this powerful newsletter service and see for yourself the types of trades Andy has recommended for his subscribers. When you sign up for a 30-day free trial, you're under no obligation to pay anything. And should you decide to continue, you will lock in the low rate of only $79 a month. Sign up right now for the Techno-Mental Commodity Report and make sure you're ready to catch the next big trade in commodities. For more information and to get started today, visit the front page of TFNN.com.
Will the S&P 500 continue to climb? For bold trades on U.S. large-cap stocks in either direction, trade SPXL, SPUU, or SPXS. Directions Daily S&P 500 Bull and Bear Leveraged ETFs. Direction Leveraged ETFs. An investor should carefully consider a fund's investment objective, risks, charges, and expenses before investing. A fund's prospectus and summary prospectus contain this and other information about Direction shares. To obtain a fund's prospectus and summary prospectus, call 866-476-7523 or visit directioninvestments.com. A fund's prospectus and summary prospectus should be read carefully before investing. An investment in the funds is subject to risk, including the possible loss of principal. The funds are designed to be utilized only by sophisticated investors such as traders and active investors. Distributor Foreside Fund Services, LLC.
Nico and Paige take your phone calls now. Toll free at 1-877-927-6648. Internationally at 727-445-1044.
Welcome back, folks, to the show. A gentle reminder here to pick up your Primal Edge, $25 off. It's the last chance to get it today. It ends, so tomorrow you won't be able to get it. So,
Well, you can still get it, but you can't save that $25.
That's right. And if you want your extra bottle, or if you want to subscribe to the Primal Edge, this is the best time to do it. So we were talking about the cardiovascular health and how maybe there's other things involved than just clogged arteries. And here's a good study, nutritional strategies for skeletal and cardiovascular health. Hard bones, soft arteries.
Rather than vice versa.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize the connection between heart disease and bone health, or let's say less bone health, and having problems with the metabolism of minerals such as calcium. One of the best ways to determine your risk for heart attack is actually a calcium score test.
Okay.
And I'm following a lot of guys about that. Calcium score really gives you an idea of, do you have abnormal calcifications in your arteries?
Now, is this a normal test the doctor would give, or is something that
You'd probably have to ask for them.
Yeah.
No, I mean, interventional type of people are doing this. It's again, it's functional.
Okay.
It's where medicine's going, though, and it is a CT scan, so it has some radiation standpoint. But the information that you get from a calcium score, cardiac arterial calcium score, is really probably gives much better clue as to what's going on from a risk standpoint. So let's talk a little bit about these nutritional strategies so that you can have healthy bones and a healthy heart.
Right.
and
So the
cardiovascular
two
system.
seem to be connected here. Calcium is ideally obtained from dietary sources. The form of calcium in bones and bone meal is calcium hydroxyapatite. Yeah, which may be really effective for building the bones. So how do we get this? First thing I think of is bone broth and things like that. Our ancestors
Absolutely.
used
And
to
what I
use.
like about this article is we're going to kind of go through it because there's real important pearls here, what you can do. And I like the way it ends at the end. It says, we're not saying it's the actual ingredient, it's the food, because it comes with all its cofactors. So really, how might you impact this or how make a change in your life? Because we know that increasing consumption of calcium-rich foods, such as bones, fermented dairy,
Fermented dairy, that's very interesting.
yogurt,
isn't it?
kefir, and cheese, Well, because we got to be able to break it down and
Yeah,
utilize
but
it.
in the mainstream media, you would think the first thing you think of is a fortified milk product.
Yeah, does our body good.
Yeah,
Well, that's the problem. Milk, it's not the food inherently, it's what we do to the food.
yeah.
And milk can be a healthy food when it's raw and grass-fed, pastured milk.
Which is really not allowed in the United States unless we consider it as pet food.
That's right.
Yes.
Well, there's lots of states that have it, but
Yeah,
they're
but in Florida
trying
they
to.
don't, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You don't get it at your average grocery store, that's for sure. But leafy greens, almonds, and chia seeds may be effective for improving skeletal and cardiovascular. So it's interesting to see that some of the foods that are good for your bones actually are also good for the heart. And one of the things that Nico hit on at the very beginning is many of the supplements that people are taking are the wrong forms of calcium.
And even in foods, too, when we think of eating a bunch of almonds, it may not be those nice roasted almonds with the normal salt on it. It might not be that great.
Well, again, we know that sourcing can be it. It says that only 30% of the U.S. population consumes the recommended daily allowance of calcium, which is around 1,000 to 1,200 milligrams. But
Right.
long story short, just to cut to the chase here, guys, I am not a fan of supplementing calcium. I do believe that many people get the wrong kinds of calcium. And I think that we want to look to the foods to get the proper amount of calcium. There's a really neat interplay between calcium and your protein.
It also says here humans absorb only about 30% of calcium from foods depending on the specific source.
That's exactly right. So,
And one of the reasons is the body will demineralize its own skeletal system to maintain these calcium levels in situations where dietary calcium is insufficient. So if you're not getting it, it means your body is harvesting it from itself.
and then that's where the problem lies. When the body starts to break down bone because you're not getting sufficient calcium at each of your meals or whatever, and through your foods, the body says, I'm going to go to the bones. But then when it starts to use that calcium, it ends up with leftover stuff, and it doesn't really know what to do with it. It says, oh, I think I'll stick it in the eye, then you get cataracts. Or, oh, it goes into
So we're
arteries,
talking about
and
that
you get
glycation again, where it mixes with the sugars.
calcification is really the word.
Calcification,
So
yeah, okay.
I mean, glycation may be involved, but it's
Mm-hmm.
calcification of the aorta. Bursitis, arthritis. These are all misplaced minerals and misappropriated.
So
we know
don't,
that
we don't want this floating around just
No.
doing its own thing.
and that's why I want to tell people that let's look for ways to get it from our foods, and we'll give you some tips. Some things you can put on your list. Just osteopenia and osteoporosis is an epidemic, but again, I'm going to preface that with, based on a lot of the research at Green Med Info, some of that may be hyped to sell drugs. That there is a possibility that we cannot be expected to have the same bone mineral density when we're 55. But we
And-
certainly want the same bone strength, and that's what we're
Well, it
going to learn.
may be also that if we're on a bad diet for 20, 30 years, now you're 50 years old, and all of a sudden it's catching up to you, and your body's actually been taking it away from you very slowly, but all of a sudden at age 50, it's presenting itself now.
A lot of the natural medicine shows some people might have, bone mineral density does not mean bone strength. We'll touch
Okay.
on that. Bone mineral density can be a result of people taking the wrong kinds of calcium supplements, and then they're possibly having cardiovascular issues as well.
Of course, the bone density, the marrow itself, is the fat inside the bone.
Yeah, but when you're talking about density, we're not talking about the marrow. We're talking
Okay.
about the
Okay.
osteoclast
That's what I
and
wanted to clear up.
osteoclast.
Good.
So, long story short, whether or not it's an epidemic or not, we know that. But cardiovascular disease and bone mineral density is really a calcium nexus.
Okay, so what do we mean by that?
So that means a strong epidemiological association exists between decreased bone mineral density and increased risk of both cardiovascular disease and cardiovascular death.
So there's the connection between the bones and the arteries.
And that's because a lot of these people are taking hard supplements. I think they're taking the wrong calcium. They're taking calcium carbonate, which is a rock.
Right.
That's why we do eat plants as a calcium source.
Right,
Because
especially the green,
those green,
ones,
deep,
yeah.
leafy green vegetables go down into the soil, get the rock calcium, and make it into a form that we can use.
Yeah.
And a lot of issues exist with dairy as a primary source of calcium. Dairy foods and beverages account for about 70% of all dietary calcium intake among Americans. But there's some issues with that, folks. And we've already talked about pasteurized milk is difficult for people to digest. These cows are not being raised on the foods, the plants. know, they're
Maybe
getting
also
seeds.
what you always talk about, it may be the wrong cow to begin with in the United States.
Yeah, and
here.
I've got an article on that. We probably won't get to it today, but yeah, you know, the wrong breed of cow, making the beta A2 and A1 calcium a difficult issue to digest the A1. So even though it's a cost-effective strategy for getting calcium, the milk it may not be the best. And ancient cultures knew that regular milk might not be as easily digested as fermented milk. So that's where yogurts and kefirs have come along.
Right.
You know, Dr. Marshall, rest in peace, you know, we lost Dr. Marshall a few months ago, but he always said some of the longest lived people drink kefir.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the way that it brings that calcium and protein in. It's just a beautiful thing.
Yep.
And so when we go to looking at milk as a source, we know that there's plant-based dietary sources of calcium and protein and their effects on the bones and your heart health.
Yeah, some good studies in here too. that
Yeah,
talk
so we
about.
got to take a short break, but when we get back, we're going to give you some ideas of some foods and things you can do for healthy heart and healthy bones.
Stick around, folks. We'll be right back.
Would like to tell you about the personal training studio that Nico is the owner and president of, Performance Training. Since 1998, Nico has trained individuals and groups to improve their health both mentally and physically. As a certified personal trainer, Nico's main focus is on demonstrating exercises correctly to avoid injury and teaching his clients how to manage their past injuries while getting the most out of their personal training sessions. The Performance Training Studio is filled with unique training equipment that enhances balanced results at a faster rate while minimizing damage and discomfort. For more information, you can give Nico a call at 727-418-8740 or email him at nico@tfnn.com. Let him know you heard him on TFNN and save up to $100 on a special package just for TFNN listeners. Act today.
Tiger TV is an exciting way to experience TFNN programming. See high-definition video, giving you crystal clear charts, as well as seeing some of the faces of TFNN's highly acclaimed financial experts with crisp, full-fidelity sound. Catch Tom O'Brien, John Logan, Steve Rhodes, Basil Chapman, Larry Pesavento, Think or Swim, David White, Andy Hecht, and Daryl Martin in crystal clear, high-definition audio and video. Tiger TV, exclusively at TFNN.com.
Has the current market volatility continued to stop you out of trades when the market spikes against you? Now is the perfect time to open up an account with Nadex. Nadex, the North American Derivatives Exchange, is a brand new, completely regulated Chicago-based exchange, and unlike most other exchanges, Nadex allows you to trade directly through them with direct market access when using their completely free trading platform, which also features real-time charts and full customization capability. One of the advantages of trading with Nadex in volatile markets is that your risk is always capped and you have the ability of keeping your trades open even when the market spikes against you. Nadex is completely brand new with a line of unique trading products that are unavailable anywhere else. See how it works at nadex.com. That's NADEX.com. Or click on the Nadex banner on the front page of TFNN.com. Futures and options trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for all investors.
Many of our new listeners have heard about the Tiger's Den, but wondered, what exactly is it? The Tiger's Den is a lively community where professional traders and investors can meet, exchange ideas and information in a comfortable, moderated atmosphere. Hear all of your favorite TFNN shows, plus see all the charts as they happen live during those shows, and have access to all those charts. You can test drive the Tiger's Den absolutely free for 30 days. It will greatly enrich your knowledge of these markets. Details on the Tiger's Den are on the front page of TFNN.com. This segment is brought to you by Think or Swim. For more information, just click the Think or Swim banner on the front page of TFNN.com.
And we're chatting about bone health and heart health.
Yeah.
Here's a recent study. We were talking about dairy consumption, how it can be a two-edged sword. A recent study of over 106,000 adults followed for 20 years that were drinking 3 or more glasses of milk per day, that's a lot right there though, had increased risk for bone fractures and higher mortality rates. You often hear these things cited by animal activists or vegans or so forth. However, this was in comparison to someone who would drink 1 or less glass of milk per day. But by contrast, for the women in that study that ate daily a serving of cheese and or other fermented milk products, such as yogurt, there was an association of up to 15% decrease in the rate of mortality and hip fractures. I think what we can take from this, and Nico and I discussed this over the break, is that dairy, regardless of how it's sourced, is a difficult protein for us to break down, loaded with nutrition, but can be difficult, particularly when it's pasteurized and processed. The body has a hard time. They don't have the enzymes. I bet if they had done this research on a raw milk drinker, they wouldn't have had the same results on the 3 glasses. But because raw is teeming with the enzymes to break it down, fermentation means that you've got bacteria that are breaking it down. So let's turn to look now at plant-based dietary sources of calcium and protein and their effects on your bone health. You know, most vegans and vegetarians, Nico, appear to absorb less calcium. And this is due to what? Your key point is due to...
Well, bone broths and things like that I think of right away when I think of calcium. So if you're not getting it from the animal source, then you have to rely on these leafy greens, and there's just not as much in there, is there?
And because of the oxalate and phytic acids.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's many oxalates and phytic acid in plants that bind the minerals and
so
make
you can't get to them.
You can't get to them.
So by fermenting them, this kind of unlocks these things. And it's, it's really about the food, but it's not about the food. It's about the quality of the food.
And the preparation and what we do to it.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is one of the reasons why Paige and I look at what we did as our ancestors
And we
did.
love the work of Dr. Weston A. Price because he actually studied people in their traditional place. Much of the research we're putting here, we're talking about studies, they're still isolated. You know what I mean? The people are pulled in and looking at their regular lifestyle diet. But Weston Price is the last researcher that really used indigenous people.
And it's the first researcher that everybody should come to. And the reason I like Weston A. Price website so much is because they include all the foods. They just show you how to use the foods that are traditionally different.
That's right. Sally Fallon says, yes, you can.
Yeah, that's right.
She calls it the yes, you can. Yes, you can have dairy if it's raw and it's fermented. Yes, you can have butter if it's raw. Yes, you can have grains
and
if they're
it always
fermented.
amazes me how our ancestors knew this, I guess through trial and error
And
somewhere
we lost
along the
this.
line. We lost it because we're segregated society. We don't have the wise old man sitting in our house anymore.
Or the grandma at home.
Or the grandma, or even the kids at home. Nobody's at home, actually.
You know, it's really neat to go get cookbooks from the 1800s.
Yes.
And you see, I have a cookbook that was my grandmother's. It's around 1920 something. You're starting to see some brand names, though, even. You know, they were saying, you get this.
At the turn of the century, it starts to turn around a little bit. This is when soda pop was invented, and the cereals were starting to be invented around the 1920s and 30s, and all these packaged foods were invented then. Primarily, they realized that when we went to war, we carried a lot of packaged foods, and the guys did pretty good.
And it's a short-term thing.
Yeah, and it's a short-term thing, so it's not a problem. But now we introduce this
and then we're
as a
living
lifestyle.
Off of them.
Yeah,
right.
so that's the thing. It's a different thing. And even you go back into the ancient times when the Romans were marching, they consumed a lot of bread. It doesn't mean that the
a
bread
lot of
is
activated barley.
Yeah.
That was what kept them. So here you go. Dietary protein, calcium, and bone health. Evolutionary evidence suggests that pre-agricultural diets were net base yielding, meaning alkalinish, and contributed to the robust bone health generally seen amongst hunter and gatherers.
So it's your pH value that really determines on how that food is going to interact with your body.
Well, and I think so many people want to point to meats and so forth as acid building, but they're actually not when they're grass-fed and
Well, they're
properly
less
raised.
so, and
Less so.
they still are, but you remember grains are too.
But it's processed foods that displace the base-yielding fruits and vegetables, thereby shifting you to a net acid diet.
Yeah.
So increased protein intake can raise a lot of insulin-like growth factor, which is anabolic, and contributes to bone building. But at the same time, we need to have a normal amount of protein distributed. We call it adequate protein, as my friend Jeff Sear says.
20 or 25% of your diet.
Yeah, and
As long as it's healthy protein, comes from great sources. This is always the key that we want to look for, is where is it coming from?
But if you take too low of amount of protein, the intestinal calcium absorption is reduced and the level of your parathyroid hormone rises. That's the body screaming for mobilization of calcium from the bone. So when you see an elevated parathyroid on your lab tests, that's a sign that your body is starting to, go to the bone to get its calcium needs. We don't want to go to our bone. And that's another reason to take, get good build your soft tissue stores of calcium and magnesium so the body can use these.
And that's one of the reasons we put what we put in the Primal Edge was the humic and fulvic acid to actually signal the body to take these nutrients in. It's really important.
It's a great dose of calcium, magnesium in a usable, cell-ready form.
Yep.
So magnesium, because speaking of, let's talk about the really important mineral here. Maintaining replete with magnesium status may reduce your risk for the metabolic syndrome, diabetes, and heart disease. And there's a lot of evidence implicating magnesium as being a big player in osteoporosis. Perhaps we've lost that ratio.
Yeah.
Whenever we're deficient in calcium, we're most likely deficient in magnesium.
And I've upped my magnesium lately, and another benefit to that is great sleep.
It absolutely is. Well, magnesium is one of those, we call it emergency medicines.
Okay.
When you go magnesium, potassium, sodium, iodine, these are the things that you get. Saline, so, when you go into emergency room, these are the crucial things that we need to stay healthy.
That's in that IV that you get immediately.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
That's how important it is. And this is the thing that immediately makes you feel better. So I've been taking a little magnesium in the powder form at night before I go to bed, and it's really, really
Yeah, but then the best
me.
thing is to eat more dark leafy greens. But
Yes.
you are not a big greens eater.
No, but when I do, it's the dark. It's the dark
ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Might be good for you to try some fermentation. Get a big
I do.
ball jar and make your own, like some fermented dark cabbage and kale. I wonder how that would be
cabbage.
for you.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah,
great. And
that would be
I
great.
use those products for sure. Not so much kale, but a lot of cabbage. I like cabbage.
Here's a great way to know how you're doing on your what might be affecting bone metabolism is to take a look at your potassium and sodium ratio on your lab test. You can Google a formula that you can use to look at it, but really we want to be in a beneficial range on potassium. Our potassium is often the thing that we have a hard time getting enough of because that's in vegetables and fruits and nuts and seeds. And we tend to be a little bit over on our sodium if we're getting processed foods.
Right.
Nothing wrong with sodium. Celery is loaded with sodium, natural sodium. You can eat that. We should eat lots of that. We need that. But we don't need the 1600 degree toxic table salt. So when we get back, we're going to talk about
Vitamin K and
bone health and how this wonderful vitamin can really be a mediator in keeping both your bones happy and your heart happy. So, be
And
right
folks,
back with you.
remind you again, last chance to pick up that Primal Edge promotion, $25 off your first bottle and your extra bottle if you're already subscribed. So pick that up right away. We'll be right back. You know what's cool? Taking something that's good for you. Something specifically formulated to help with weight loss, better sleep, stress reduction, and the need to detox.
Nico, our hunter and gatherer ancestors found all their nutritional requirements for health in their wild environment. But today, our food sources no longer contain the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients our bodies need to stay healthy and strong.
That's why we need Primal Edge Daily Nutrition. It includes a special blend of ionic, soil-based vitamins, minerals, fatty, and amino acids in an easy-to-use liquid form.
Primal Edge is powered by highly concentrated fulvic and humic acids, nature's preferred delivery system. They have been called miracle molecules because, like sunlight, air, and water, life cannot exist without them.
That's right, Paige. They ensure we receive all the nutrition we need to be healthy and thrive. We take it every morning.
Primal Edge, formulated and approved by Nico and Paige of Living a Primal Lifestyle. Buy it today for just $89. Click on the Primal Edge banner on the front page of TFNN.com. Tom O'Brien has just announced that he'll be coming to Boston September 30th for a free workshop, The Art of Timing the Trade. Join Tom O'Brien Saturday morning, September 30th at the Boston Marriott in Burlington, Massachusetts, as he breaks down his trading methodology and provides you with the tools to become a more successful and profitable trader. Everyone that attends in person will receive a free signed copy of Tom's best-selling book, The Art of Timing the Trade, Your Ultimate Trading Mastery System. Daryl Martin from Apex Investing Institute will also be presenting for 90 minutes at this free event.
Hi folks, this is Tom O'Brien. Join me in Boston on September 30th as I return to God's country for a workshop about the art of timing the trade. I look forward to seeing all the tigers and tigresses for this special free event.
All action starts early at 7:30 a.m. with a continental breakfast and wraps up at about 1 p.m. Topics that Tom will be covering during his presentation include quality volume, cause and effect, ABC structures, swing points, and much, much more. For all the information on this free Boston event taking place Saturday, September 30th, visit the front page of TFNN.com.
David White's newsletter, The Technology Insider, is focused like a laser on finding the next big things in technology. If you had invested only $10,000 in Microsoft in 1986, you'd have been a millionaire by 2000. Disruptive technology like Microsoft's is the key to these massive long-term profits, and the Tech Insider is the vehicle from TFNN to capitalize on these opportunities. This is the go-to newsletter that identifies, monitors, and profits on mostly little-known cutting-edge companies with great long-term prospects. David's experience is as an inventor of Emmy-winning animation products for TV and Hollywood that propelled a company public. Match that with 14 years as a full-time trader, and he's uniquely qualified to guide you through the light-speed world of ever-evolving high-tech. If you're ready to ride the next big technology bull market for less than $40 per month, log on to TFNN.com and get your 2-week free trial to the Technology Insider. Get in on the ground floor of the next big thing today.
Don't forget, you can listen to TFNN live on your mobile device 24 hours per day. Go to TFNN.com, then hit Watch Tiger TV. That's TFNN.com, then hit Watch Tiger TV for the latest market information.
And welcome back. So we're talking about bone health, and we're at the part where they're talking about vitamin K. And they mentioned vitamin K as just one whole thing, and you and I have talked for many times about that vitamin K is actually two different ones.
Right.
Vitamin K1 and the K2. One comes from plants, one comes from animals. And they do mention in here that they talk about the great thing, vitamin K and vitamin A and D, you need all this. And then they mention, just as an aside, the vitamin K was even more, K2 was even more effective in this regard.
That's right. It
So-
says increased vitamin K2 intake has been associated with decreased arterial calcium deposition and the ability to reverse, that's a key thing there, vascular calcification in animal models. Note that, in animal models. K2 prevents pathological calcification in the soft tissues, and this, it goes on and on. I won't go into all that detail, but the long story short is, where do we find K2? In fermented foods. Vitamin K2 is a production of fermentation. So highest potential is natto, fermented natto, which is a very stinky cheese.
Yes,
okay.
it is.
Other cheese, that's why I love the look on my client's face when I tell them I want them to have that. I want them to unclog their arteries by having a little Gouda cheese. They look at me because we still have this perception that cheese is fat. No, that's going to be bad for us. It's the complete opposite. It's
Of
got
course, Gouda from Holland, where I'm from.
highest amount of vitamin K2
And I
of
still
the cheeses.
eat a lot.
It's great to have like as a little appetizer
Yeah.
with your little.
And that's what mostly how I
pomegranate or
have
your
it.
wine.
I have it as a snack.
Well, you don't snack, but you have it as just a little piece. Is what
Yeah,
you
just a
mean.
little piece here and there. It's just I come home and I want something, and the cheese is there screaming at me, get me. But I find it interesting. They do mention, of course, that the vitamin K1 comes from the leafy greens and things like that, but they don't really tell you that the K2 is coming from an animal source as well as the fermented kind. So I think we want to mention that.
Yeah, they actually have this little pop-up here, and they list the top vitamin K dietary sources. And the number one is, guess what? Kale. Kale has 1,000 milligrams of K1, but don't get misconstrued. That's not the one that's necessarily providing you with the K2. It doesn't provide you with the K2,
Right.
and that's not. And it's the K2 that's doing this decalcification. However, what does it also have? Kale, magnesium.
Okay.
So we know that the magnesium and the K2, these all work together.
Right. And
So-
of course, we talk a lot about bone broths, and we have in the past, and this is a great source of the K2 too.
Absolutely. So especially if you put a little blob of grass-fed butter in it.
Oh yeah,
Right before
have
you
the
serve
fat
it.
to let it ride in there for sure.
So the real key, folks, is that calcium supplementation and bone health is calcium is not ideally found in some of these cheap supplements. If you are going to supplement, I highly recommend you seek out a supplement that uses the calcium hydroxyapatite
Yeah,
version,
like we have in
which
the,
is for the bone meal, a bone meal version of calcium, but also to look at some of these fermented food sources as a way to introduce your calcium through your day.
And these are traditional foods. I have fond memories of having the fermented foods as part of our diet when I was in Holland as a child. We had sauerkraut a lot. We always had pickled things with every single meal. Sometimes our milk was even from the farmer who fermented it. So, these things are what we use just even 50, 60, 70 years ago, and that it seems to have disappeared, exceptly now in some health food stores you can find them, or the nutty people down the street are making their own yogurt and things like that. So it's not part of the mainstream, and it needs to be. You need to seek these things out. It's very important.
So I want to go down to the part as foods as the ideal source of calcium, because I think we've covered a lot of this,
Yeah.
but the traditional focus in nutrition based on supplementation of single isolated nutrients may be especially misguided in the case of calcium and bone health. There needs to be a synergy, and we find that synergy in foods. A dietary supplement with calcium as a mononutrient pill is not ideal for promoting bone health nor heart health.
Okay.
And it may instead accelerate arterial plaque growth and vascular calcification and increase your risk of heart attacks, which is how we started the show today.
Yeah. It says here a plant-rich, grain-free diet alters the acid-base status as to be slightly alkaline, which is what we want, and that's really good for the bone health.
Notice that they said a plant-rich but grain-free.
That's right.
And
So we don't consider the grains as plants, really. They're seeds, and they're a little bit different, and we're really not
However,
designed as seed eaters, unless we do something to them, right?
right, plants are relatively poor sources of calcium compared to animal sources.
Right.
Great sources of minerals. So we got to look at why it's good to eat both, such as dairy products and animal bones. We suspect that milk, though an excellent source of bioavailable calcium, has potential adverse effects for some individuals, and we've talked about that. It may be the sugars, it may be the inability, it's what these cows were fed, etc.
Yeah, it says 65% of the world population show some decrease in lactose activity during adulthood.
Yeah, the lactase, which is the actual enzyme that breaks down
Right.
the lactose, right?
So importantly, fermented dairy has been linked to a favorable outcome for bone health and monetary
Yeah, because
mortality.
those little boogers get down there and break down the lactose, so you don't have to.
Yeah.
So there's lots of benefits of consuming bones and bone meal. Nico and I were discussing making a good bone broth with the bones, and you're getting all that nutrition from the bones. And studies have shown that adult human hunter-gatherers consumed most of their calcium in the forms of bones from animals. They probably didn't have the luxury of having an animal at every meal like we do. They maybe had some and had to save some parts and made some stews with the bones.
Well, generally, I think without refrigeration and stuff, you have to do things to these animal foods immediately and to keep them any kind. You can make jerky out of them. You can make bone broths out of them. You can make stews. Stews keep forever because all you have to do is keep the fire going, and it's there.
Right. And this thing, like it says, we were genetically adapted to absorb our calcium through bones, not plants. And you and I was saying, calcium carbonate, which is what so many of these calciums that people are just taking when they're going to the big box store, that's a rock. So we eat a plant because the plant takes the rock and breaks it down in the soil.
Yeah. And the animal does too.
Right, and an animal does too. So, but when we just are taking the rock itself, we're not going to get the same result. And it really is, to have healthy bones and a healthy heart, we want to make sure there's a matrix of nutrients, including calcium, including magnesium, phosphorus, strontium, zinc, iron, copper, collagen protein, which means meat protein, organ protein, and the collagenous proteins, all of which support a robust bone health and also cardiovascular
Yeah,
health.
mineral supplements made from bone meal, when taken with food, theoretically might provide more practical means to ensure adequate calcium intake without predisposition to the cardiovascular risk, which we talked about.
So that's
beforehand.
about getting the right calcium, folks. So if you've got your husbands and wives and you're buying, go take a look at your First of all, I'd rather see someone not supplement calcium than take some of these rock forms of calcium.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. This is why bone broth is a key to this whole thing and fermenting things. So if you want to be healthy, you're going to start getting into making your own bone broth, or maybe buying it if you want to, but it's so inexpensive just to save the bones all month long, and then
That's
once
right.
a month you can pick butt.
The fundamental unit for nutrition is in the food, guys, not in the supplements, but knowing how, not just what food, but how you prepare it, how you eat it, when you eat it. And this nutrient-dense perspective is beneficial for both your bones, for your heart, and your whole body health.
That's right.
That's right. We'll take a short break, and we'll be back with more
And while you're
news
on that
you can
break,
use.
you can pick up that last chance to pick up the Primal Edge. $25 off for right now, folks. Go get it.
Hi, I'm Steve Rhodes, host of the Trader's Edge, heard daily at TFNN.com and author of Mastering Probability, a daily investment and trading newsletter service that I send out each morning by 8 a.m. My morning newsletter service covers exactly what the markets have been doing since last night's close, providing you with an edge on your trading day ahead. You get actionable trading ideas, including the exact entry, stop, and profit targets. Plus, I'll teach you the patterns and hidden market correlations that will make you a better trader. As a subscriber, you'll gain access to my 90-minute money management workshop, where I'll teach you the secrets that'll save your assets. The bottom line, I've got your back, including a 30-day money-back guarantee. See for yourself the type of analysis I provide each trading day by signing up for Mastering Probability today. With nothing to lose, this is an offer you should not pass on. Mastering Probability can be found under Trading Newsletters on the front page of TFNN.com.
If you're an active trader looking for that extra edge when it comes to trading and investments, then now is a great time to get a 2-week free trial to Tom O'Brien's daily market letter, Market Insights. Tom O'Brien's daily newsletter, Market Insights, comes out every market day at around 9:30 a.m. and provides Tom's daily commentary on the broad market, including the Dow, NASDAQ, and S&P, plus specific trade recommendations. There's even an update published most afternoons to keep you informed about the day's market activity. He'll give you the entry price, price target, and stop price of each stock and option trade. With Market Insights, there's nothing left to guessing. For all the details and to get your 2-week free trial to Market Insights started today, visit TFNN.com.
No matter where you're listening to TFNN programming, you can always access your favorite shows on demand through TFNN.com. TFNN airs live programming every market day from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. Eastern, and you can view each program by accessing Tiger TV through our homepage. We even have an easy link for all mobile devices, including iPhones, iPads, and Android devices, located in the top right-hand corner of the TFNN homepage. You can use your smartphone to view Tiger TV, but if you don't have a connection that can keep up with streaming live video, then you can simply visit TFNN.mobi in the browser of your smartphone for live streaming audio of all our programs. The mission of TFNN is to educate our audience directly and interactively through our interactive website and call-in talk shows. TFNN is able to teach all levels of investors the technical skills needed to trade in today's marketplace. In order to get the best information possible, TFNN has assembled the most respected financial minds in the country to provide the most current news and comprehensive advice available. TFNN.com. Educating investors. Up next, 9 before 9 with John Logan on TFNN.
And welcome back. Here we have a great article of a 60-year-old guy who returned his vision and removed fat from his liver and completely cleaned his colon by
And he's gonna
having this recipe, a super recipe.
That's right. You know, we know that maintaining our health is not always a simple task, but it does require diligence and self-care. And as we're starting to age, there's things that happen that we have to do a little housekeeping sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things, you know, for instance, the eyes are some of the organs that suffer the most, and vision is known to deteriorate with aging.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, when we get in our 50s, we start to see some vision changes. Many changes that occur within the eyes, you know, are problems that are caused by laxity or involuntary ptosis, by age-related descent of the eyebrows, watery eyes, and other changes. These can decrease your vision in general.
Yep.
No?
So he learned to use this little recipe, and I have it up here in the telestrator.
Yeah, the liver is yet another organ that becomes susceptible to many structural and microscopic changes as the body ages. And really, we know that in Chinese medicine, the liver and the eyes are connected.
Right.
From a meridian standpoint. So he talks about the beet, and as we know, beet beats the disease.
And that nice vibrant color of a beet gives you a good
there's
indication
betalains,
of
that beautiful color, right?
2 or 3 beets, 2 onions, vinegar, extra virgin olive oil, and some Himalayan salt to taste.
Yeah, you can
peel
cook
the beets.
those.
Yeah, you cook the peeled beets in water with a pinch of salt. You chop up the beets into small pieces, and then you chop the onions and combine them with the beets. You pour a little vinegar and olive oil over the salad, season with salt if you need to, and I always do, and then sprinkle some of the vinaigrette and set it aside for an hour or 2 before you serve to let
It's like a
those
nice
things.
little beet salad. The good news is that there's another way you can do with beets, before I go in this, is you can just take a raw beet and keep it in your refrigerator and forgot about that today. You can,
What can you do?
you can shred it onto your salad, and it makes a little bit of color onto your salad and everything. So that's
And
one way
when
you
you're
can.
thinking beets and you're thinking vinegar and all that stuff, I'm thinking a little sour taste in there, which is really good. And beets
A
is
little
one
bit
of those.
sweet too.
Yeah, and
Beet
beet is
adds
a
a little
root.
sweet.
These roots are really medicinal, especially the dark ones, not the starchy ones so much.
That's true.
Red cabbage, I think that's another thing you can use. So there are lots of different recipes. This is a great little recipe that you can use, and it's a little bit of a salad.
Right. So one of the things I wanted to say is that this really cleans the liver. The beet really is really good for the liver and the gallbladder. And this recipe, many people experience a reduction in the production of bile and a decrease in the liver's activity. And they can end up getting diagnosed with fatty liver disease. So this is a multi-cleanser.
It does many things. Yeah.
It's a popular veggie that is most eaten raw or made into a salad. While its taste is not appealing to most people, I particularly like beets. But it's packed with the healing properties and offers a wide range of health benefits.
One of the things it contains tryptophan and betaine, which we use. That's
Betaine.
kind of a buffer.
Oh, the
for-
betaine HCl.
Yeah,
and it's
exactly.
all beet derived, right?
Yeah, so it buffers the acid a little bit.
These are rarely found in plants and are known for their ability to calm down the nerves and combat stress. Regular consumption of this veggie also boosts blood circulation, strengthens the cardiovascular system, and gives the body an energy boost that helps you.
Yes, and the combination of high antioxidant content and the potential anti-inflammatory properties of these helps fight off the free radicals, which in turn prevents any damage and improves your overall health. So take that.
Food as medicine. Food is medicine, folks. And when we start to look at these colors, eat a rainbow. I posted a really cool picture on Facebook. Jasmine and I were talking. It was a picture of my grass-fed butter. I have the most beautiful butter. It's almost the color of a tangerine. It's definitely the color of a grapefruit. It's just really yellow. Let's look for food. Let's look to food as being a big part of helping us to stay healthy, and that's what we're here for.
Thanks for sticking around, folks. Pick up that Primal Edge. Remember, it's the last day for your $25 off, so do that right away.
Okay.
And we'll see you in the next show. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Since 1984, Basil Chapman has been using the Chapman Wave methodology to advise traders of his expert market opinion. While originally hand-drawing charts from the late 1970s into the 1980s, Basil noticed that prices under most circumstances virtually always had a certain number of legs to the upside before declining sharply. Later, Basil found that computer software, which included the standard market technical indicators, enhanced the degree of accuracy in calling price turns, as well as market trend calls. Thus was born the Chapman Wave sequence. Using the Chapman Wave methodology along with other indicators, Basil Chapman advises his subscribers of his expert market opinion each market day with his opening call newsletter. Right now, you can get a 2-week free trial to the opening call, Basil's daily trading newsletter, by visiting the front page of TFNN.com. Cancel at any time during that trial and pay absolutely nothing. Get your 2-week free trial to Basil's newsletter, The Opening Call, today by visiting TFNN.com.
You're watching Tiger TV.